I think kids don't get interesting till they're like 20 or something. I don't know.
Well, it'll be neat though.
I wasn't interesting till I was like 30.
You're
sure.
interesting?
My dad thinks so, but he's kind of... Maybe it's because he's so old.
It's because his car is faster than yours, Ben.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
His car is better than yours, and you're a hater because he has an M3 and you don't.
Hey, I do have an M3, actually.
He's got an E57 Elite Series.
But his car just got...
drive.
I did tell you his car just got trailered back to the dealer.
Well, it's because it's a performance car, sir.
Yeah, one of the throttle bodies like fucked up on it or something, so bye-bye.
Yeah, that's all Tim Meyer's input for this whole podcast there.
Well, he doesn't need to have input, right? I mean, he's just... You guys intellectually intimidate him, so he doesn't have much to say other than that, what he just said. All right, welcome to the Practical Pistol Show. My name's Ben Steger, here to answer your shooting questions. Joining me today, Yantola. We got Hopkins, and we've got Les Pepperoni. Grandmasters all, and badasses all. Well, yeah, I think you're all badasses. All right, guys, so let me tee up the topic today. There was a thread on Duty Project about the Area 1 Championship, and it was like a lot of discussions of matches, it turned to, hey, a lot of people got DQ'd at this match. So, I'm pretty sure you've all been to matches where there's been some chatter about, man, boy, an awful lot of people got DQ'd at this match. And then the discussion turns to some specific stage or something like that. And it got me thinking, like, a DQ trap. I mean, is that a thing, or what is that? Or, you know, let's have a discussion about DQ traps. So I teed up a topic poll on a separate topic, and I'll link this up in the show notes if you're curious about reading it. But it's turned into a really interesting discussion. I said, hey, DQ trap, is that a real thing? Yes or no? And it's pretty much split 50-50. A few more people are saying yes, the DQ trap is a real thing. So I thought it'd make for a good podcast discussion about DQ traps. Les, a DQ trap, is that real? Is it... I should say there seems to be a spectrum of views on this. On one end of the spectrum, it's if you DQ, you are a fucking retard, and that's the language guys are using. And then on the other end of the spectrum, it's hey, there's high risk spots and stages, and you got to watch out for those, and people make mistakes, and there may not be like DQ traps, but there are those that are a little overzealous, and there are bad stage designs. So those seem to be the opposing views. So what do you think, Les?
So just a clarifying question.
Yeah.
When we're talking about DQ traps, is it something that's intentional that a match director has designed?
Oh, of course. So now, if I just use the term DQ trap, it implies intent, but that's the generic term. I don't think that I've never met a match director where I think like, yeah, that motherfucker is designing stages to try and DQ people. I think DQ trap probably would be more properly described as DQ hazard, or trouble spot, or something you should watch out for, something like that. But but when I say DQ trap, everybody knows what I'm talking about, I think, right?
I think so. But for somebody who's maybe a newer shooter or something, maybe it helps to clarify. So would we also say, though, that there are some match directors that get a little overzealous with their stage design and kind of fuck up and create significant potential for a newer person to DQ, or a person who's not really maybe lapsing in their attention?
Yes. So a few examples of that are posted up in the thread, where it's like, hey, this particular scenario, one guy posted a picture of two targets just kind of sitting next to each other, and he says, yeah, so you look at these two targets, and the one on the right is actually uprange of 180 from the start position of the stage. So you actually would have to draw and back up to shoot the target or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I suppose there's overzealous match directors. But would you say that there is such a thing? Is a DQ trap, or are people just retarded, or is there just bad gun handling?
So
what do you think?
Categorizing this, I think I'll say I was at a IDPA state match here in Illinois a number of years ago, and that Tim Myers, you're gonna think that's hot. And
Only if you
anyway,
were ninth place sharpshooter, baby.
yeah, exactly. But basically, what happened is the stage design got set up, and there was a significant uprange movement. So a lot of running and trying to figure out like the cover, lines and all this stuff, and it was pretty complicated. I guess for people who were newer at the game, ended up being that the guy who was the match director for the match ended up DQing on that stage, which is like kind of wonderful. There were also a lot of hazards where people were, because if you're a better shooter and you're moving pretty fast up, back up range, there's the potential to bump into the SO or RO or whatever you want to call it, and have some problems there. It kind of created a hazard. So I'll say that I don't know if that was something where they intentionally set up a difficult stage to try and really kind of, for whatever reason, test people's gun handling ability or something. I don't know. Or if it was just, the person who was the stage designer was kind of a knucklehead over that. But a lot of people did get DQ'd. I would say that was a legitimate DQ trap. For people who are, I think, more seasoned, who understand the games a little bit better, I don't think that a DQ trap is like it's built into the stages, really going to present like a problem. I think what people who are better at the sport can run into, though, is a person who's a bit of an overzealous RO or SO, who really wants you to do something a certain way, and even if that's if the stage is kind of tight or whatever, and they're going to maybe make a bad call. I don't have an example of that, but I've heard of a few things that are a little bit goofy like that.
All right, well, I'll throw this out there. So I actually worked a stage over the weekend where you were facing squarely uprange to start, and then you turn and draw, and you turn to the left as a right-handed shooter, right? If you can envision that, so you're going to be turn, and then you have to delay the draw a little bit, otherwise you'll draw a little early, right? So you're right-handed, draw, turn to the left. You got it.
Right.
All right. And me working the stage, I'm standing right on the 180, along with 3 other people working the stage. We're just standing right there watching this person draw. Would you describe that? What's that, Hopkins?
How does barrel look?
How does barrel look? It looked nice.
Okay.
There's
Was it was it an Aki Shadow?
No, it was an IPSC match. So I don't think they're not allowed to have those. Hopkins, is that a DQ trap or not?
No, I wouldn't consider that a DQ trap.
Is there anything you can think of that would be a DQ trap?
Putting a target only engageable beyond the 180 would be a DQ trap.
Well,
otherwise, no.
All right, you and I shot a match together where we asked the RO, like, how are you calling the 180 on this target? And he said, from the leftmost 4 inches of this port, you can engage that target.
Oh, that dude was crazy. I don't. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about now.
Right. You know the match I'm talking about. But from the leftmost 4 inches of this port, you may engage this target. If you're to the right of the leftmost 4 inches of the target, I'm going to DQ you for breaking the 180 on this target. Is that a DQ trap or not?
No.
No.
You knew. The good thing about it. No, it isn't, because he actually gave you like a.
He was very clear about it. Yes.
Yeah, like it was very clear. Like if you did go over that 4 inches or whatever, DQ.
I can think of it.
Everybody made sure and stayed on the left-hand side of it.
I've shot matches where I asked the RO how they were calling the 180 on certain targets, and the RO said, if you break the 180, it's a DQ, and then that's it. That's all they said.
Yeah, I've heard that before too.
Is that a DQ trap?
No. I don't think they're required to tell you where they're calling the 180 though either.
Yeah, but they can be fucking. Yeah, I don't think they're required to not be fucking assholes, but they can still do it.
That's a different thing though. Like, that's a totally different thing though.
It is. I mean, I guess.
It's two different issues.
The interesting thing about this thread is a lot of guys were kind of like, yeah, okay, maybe there's not such thing as a DQ trap, but there's such a thing as like ROs that are dicks.
I like the best thing I liked was some dude posted, "There's shitty stage design and shitty gun handling. Not sure you can call either one bad."
All right, Yantola, what do you think?
Well, first of
DQ
all,
traps, is that a thing?
all right. In general, as a left-hander, you're barking up the wrong tree with me if you want sympathy for DQ traps. But
No, none of us are looking for sympathy. I'm asking, is it DQ?
Well,
That's
some of the
so
people,
as both a lefty and a homosexual, would you say that DQ traps are a real thing?
Okay, I dispute one of those, by the way. But no, I don't. I mean, if there's some, like, there were people in the thread suggesting that some match directors would have intent or like get their jollies off by designing a stage where they think a lot of people are going to DQ here or whatever. That's kind of ridiculous. I've never seen anything like that. I hope that, that's PVH kind of behavior that I hope doesn't really exist in the sport. So I'm not going to say they're like DQ traps. Okay, so
do you think that there's ROs out there that when they DQ somebody, they go home and put a notch in their timer?
I hope
something
not.
Like that.
I mean, I'm sure there's a couple out there, but I would hope that's extremely limited. I mean, I hope people aren't out there being entertained by DQing people. But okay, getting back to one of the things you guys were talking about earlier. Okay, what if the 180 in so many instances is so arbitrary and such a judgment call that absolutely, I think in many situations.
I got to cut you off. Remember, we live in a 360 dynamic environment.
Okay.
Oh my God.
That may be true. Okay. That's I know that's correct, but look, if you got to ask an RO how you're calling the 180 on this target or whatever, yeah, he should be able to tell you how he's calling the 180 on that target.
But he just
at that point, it's an arbitrary decision.
He's not required to, right?
Oh.
Or is he? I don't know.
He should be required to.
He probably should be.
If you're shooting a target at like 179 or 181 or whatever, and that's a good spot to shoot it from, 180 DQs for me should be obvious, blatant.
Yeah, blatant.
Okay. If you're shooting a target at 180 or 181 or whatever, you can't see that shit with your protractor in real time as the RO. So, when I'm running the timer, I'm not going to DQ for someone. I'm not going to DQ someone shooting a target that close. And if someone asks me how I'm calling the 180 there, I'm going to be like, as long as you're standing here, you're good. If you're standing here, you're bad. And I'm going to answer that.
So you're not going to be the guy who's like, well, if you break the 180, you get DQ'd.
No, I'm not going to be that guy, man. I hate to say this, but this is one area of the rules where I think IDPA actually is doing a better job, where they use their little muzzle safe points that they can assign based on the bay and conditions and all that stuff. The 180, I think it's a great concept, but I think that in certain situations it's over-enforced and people get a little bit too crazy about, he broke 181 degrees. He almost killed everybody at the range,
I think they call 180s on where the shooter's body is compared to where they're actually shooting. Because you can't see where the muzzle is probably 99% of the time. So, like, if you break this imaginary plane where you shoot this target too far, they're going to call 180 even if they don't see it.
Yeah, and that's ridiculous.
I mean, you can't call it in real time unless you're looking down a muzzle. Then that's different sort of thing.
I was talking with somebody about a situation just like that locally at a local match here yesterday, and a guy got DQ'd moving laterally down a hallway, and the RO admitted later on that he couldn't even see the muzzle. He called it based on the guy's body position, and that's ridiculous.
So was that guy reinstated in the match?
No.
The DQ shooter?
No.
Of course not. Why would he be? Fuck it. All right. All right, Les, go ahead.
On that thread, I actually put a comment in. This is something that, tying this back to the whole election thing that's going on now too, is I think this is something where I'd really like to see NROI or USPSA board or something come out with some sort of pamphlet or something, especially if they're trying to get newer clubs signed up or newer people to sign up and take part in being like a match director or running a club, knowing how to design a good stage or knowing what the hallmark of a good stage is. So often people go to the RO training and it's pretty boring.
Pretty awesome.
It's awesome and boring. Then I think the problem is though is that how to actually administer a match, how to run a match efficiently, how to actually design good stages that aren't going to I mean, you can design a significant challenge that's never going to come close to where people are going to have to exercise some goofy ass judgment call on oh, that's DQable. It was 181. So I don't know. I'd like to see USPSA step up a bit uh, in that regard, at least to help out at the local level a little bit more. But I don't know.
That's a good point. I like that point. Like, if you put a target at 179, does it really change the stage if you move it in a foot?
To 175?
To like 160. I mean, does that really change it and affect the stage? I'd say no.
It makes there maybe be less DQs? I don't know. Maybe.
What does it change the challenge of the stage? I wouldn't think so.
It makes it less hard or less easy to DQ, I suppose. Right? All right. Let me read a post here from Shock Bottle. That's Roy Stedman, our case gauge manufacturer guy. I think it's an interesting post, and he's been shooting for like longer than I've been alive. So there's some perspective here. Okay, he says it's a DQ trap if you assign an RO to watch a particular area or action. Stupid stage setups like targets and shots right on the 180 or walls that aren't quite parallel to the back of the berm are just plain lame. No reason to do them and every reason not. No doubt the skills test and muzzle awareness fogies will be by soon. None of that wins matches or the streets. Send people home when they do something really unsafe. Don't dick them over with relatively minor shit. Pepperoni, what do you think of that?
Spot on. This kind of comes back to this whole how to design a good stage and not have to run the risk of doing a DQ trap or something for people to be aware of. I don't think it adds anything. So.
All right. So let me read you a guy posting on the other side of this. The ROs have a responsibility to reinforce the rules carefully. To do otherwise would be a disservice to the 390 shooters that didn't have their heads up their asses on that stage. So I think what this guy's speaking to is if you, Les Pepperoni, as the RO, watch a guy shoot a stage and you think he went to the 181, right? You can tell me if I'm reading this wrong, but I feel like you're the type of guy who, if you feel like a guy was like at 181 or 182, you would maybe talk to him after the stage and say, hey man, you were coming pretty close to breaking the 180. But when Les Pepperoni says you're coming pretty close to breaking the 180, what you mean is, I think you broke the 180, but I'm not going to DQ you for it. All right? And then to actually DQ somebody, it'd have to be pretty blatant. Am I reading that right? Is that how you feel?
No, I've actually DQ'd people for breaking 180.
Yeah, but was it blatant or was it like kind of? It was a close call.
I would say it was closer. So the question of like having ambiguity or whatnot, but it's more based off the body position and where they're engaging a target from. I mean, we shoot indoors, so it makes it significantly easier to understand where that 180 line is. The floor is marked up, etc. So I mean, you've been at Alpha.
I've been there.
So I mean, this was something where, I mean, yeah, you got to enforce the rules correctly, but I think maybe a better point, and this is something that we had a discussion about, is that stage shouldn't have, like during our RO walkthrough to put on that match, I think we should have tried to make it a bit, change it. It's exactly going back to what Hopkins is talking about. I mean, do you really need that target there on the 180, or can you put it to the 170 and still have the same challenge without any of the risk and not have to be a dick?
Well, then, what's your reaction to guys who are like, hey, if you break the 180, you're a retard, and that's it?
People break the 180. I mean, learning. I mean, that's where the RO's got to really like catch it if there's a lapse of attention. But I think that's I'll say like fair. But I think if you're designing a stage where when you break the 180, it's a pretty blatant offense, I think that leaves little room for any ambiguity or for Monday morning armchair quarterbacking of the situation or whatever. I mean, Does that sound reasonable?
So what you're saying is you want to design the stages so that there's no reason to be like close to the 180.
Correct.
So that should there be a DQ, then it's the guy kind of has it coming.
Right. I mean, well, we get newer shooters, so when somebody DQs on that, it's because they're not completely aware of like the muzzle, or they're new at it, and you got to help those people out, coach them through some of this stuff. But if it's an egregious enough offense, then you got to stop them and just.
Well, what does egregious enough mean?
Yeah, I mean,
it sounds like what you're saying is you'd let some offenses slide and not some others.
I would.
No, I mean we run a pretty tight ship as far as like when we're running matches.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump to Hopkins because he's going to say something controversial. I like that.
Some dude went to like 182, and you weren't sure and saw it. Fucking let him go, dude. Like counsel him in the back. I'm not going to ruin some dude's day over that, especially since I'm not a certified RO. I just claim ignorance on that shit.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I rest my case. Right?
I claim ignorance. I, Matt Hopkins, am ignorant of all that's happened.
I'm not certified, so it's good.
Yantola, what do you think? Are you?
I'm also not a certified RO.
Do you ever see stuff you let it go or no?
Yeah, I do. I help run an indoor IDPA match that's packed full of newbies a couple times a month, and if we DQ'd everybody for every little thing, we wouldn't have too many shooters. And that's not
every
to say
little
stuff
thing.
that's
You mean like every potentially unsafe situation?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, I think a lot of let's get back to what Les was saying about some of the. I think a lot of the deal with like if you're going to be super picky about 180 or 181, part of that's going to be due to the bay and how it is. So you remember the video that we were talking about on a previous podcast where the guy's shooting like it looks like kind of at the 180.
Oh yeah.
But like 20 degrees to the left, there's
people got
there.
super pissed off about that, by the way.
Well, okay, that's a situation where you better, you're going to enforce that pretty hardcore for a good reason, okay? But if you're looking at 180 versus 181 and the spectators are still 90 degrees off the guy's muzzle, I think you can, not call it quite as hard, all right? I think it's kind of situationally dependent there about whether a stage is a bad design, potentially, and how really super strict you have to be on that hardcore 180 rule. I think every situation is a little different.
So our situation as we shoot indoors, it's pretty, the bays are fairly small. The floor is pretty well marked, so when somebody breaks 180, there could be a potential for hazard there. Number one, so I mean it is a safety issue. It makes total sense. It's a lot easier to see inside, so it removes a lot of the ambiguity. But that said, we try and design a stage where it's never going to have that sort of a judgment call like 181 or get the protractor out. When somebody's moved to a certain point and they're trying to engage something else, can stop. Like that's what I mean. It's egregious to the point where there's no ambiguity in making that call. It's not like
if there's no ambiguity and the rule's the rule, then you at that point you should enforce it.
All right. I was looking for my RO card. I just got I think I threw them out. Like I've been an RO for a number of years, and like the amount of these like stupid like overlays I've got is just like.
They're not stupid, man. They help you know if there's a double or not.
Especially
right?
the ones that Tim Meyer sells in the pro shop where the circles are a little bit bigger, right?
He just tells everyone he's shooting 22. It's fine. All right. So, I mean, it's an interesting conversation always, I think, to talk about DQ traps or this and that, or are people fucking other people on this stuff. Les, do you have anything else you want to say about it?
No.
No, you don't care. Hater. Hopkins.
Actually, I rescind that. To people who are newer, go take a class. Go take a class with Ben or Matt and Tim or Nick or somebody. Get
Les.
trained. No, I don't teach anymore. But like go go take a class with somebody who can actually show you how to do stuff safe. I mean, I started shooting USPSA, and it was the kind of the Wild West. Here, you bought your gun, you got a holster, you're in the game, get in there, and really, like, I can shoot fast and not one minute per shot or whatever. It's just, I mean, so if somebody's not accustomed to it and they're really green, go get trained, go get help. It's worth the $50 that Hopkins is going to charge you. Or I mean, $500.
He's going to charge you more than that.
Right. The Yantola deal of 2 days for $2,000.
That's a good deal.
Totally worth it.
Guarantee you get a GM card along with it. So 2 days, $2,000 GM card. Boom.
I'll give you a photocopy of mine for just $100.
Hopkins, anything else to add to this? Are you DQ trapping people?
No, I think you got to be I think you should have some leeway. I mean, if it's not going to kill anybody, I think you should maybe let it go.
It's just a club match, Matt.
Hashtag just a club match.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
same as your other hashtag. So you got two now.
That's a new shirt.
Production Optics.
You got hashtag Fuck Manny for Prez. Hashtag just a club match.
That one.
Yeah, you did.
Dude. No, I didn't.
I heard you did that.
Those.
Well, I'm going to tell everyone you did it just the same. It doesn't matter if you didn't do it.
I know. It's just what people think, right?
You get credit for it. I know all about that. Yantola, anything else left to say on this topic?
No, I mean, obviously safety's really important, but
whatever.
The DQ stuff, DQ trap, I don't really buy into that, especially when you're at a bigger match, man up, don't point your muzzle uprange. That's my overall opinion on especially level 2 matches, but I don't really, like I said, as a lefty, I face that stuff all the time, so I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for people who whine about DQ traps that are experienced in the sport.
Are we still on here? Sorry, I just cut out for a second. Oh, goody.
Yeah, I think we are.
We're still here. I see your smiling face, Nick. I'm sorry, guys. My computer's being a motherfucker right now. All right, let's move on to a shooting question. Sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Question. So on the draw, at the point where you bring your hands together, would it be wrong for your mind to think of it as shifting control from your strong hand to your weak hand? So, like a feeling of leading with your left hand if you're a right-hand dominant shooter. The reason I say this is because with the thumb's forward grip, I feel that the support hand has less room for error and more consistency, because when it's fully extended, the muzzle is pretty much straight down and really can't move down anymore because of the mechanics of the wrist in that position. Versus the strong hand, which is at full extension, still has room to move up and down. This is a super hard question to put into words, but I hope you understand what I'm getting at. Thanks, bro. Let's go to Yantola first.
I did not understand what he was getting at.
God damn it, I didn't either. All right, Hopkins, did you pick up on any of that?
Yeah, I think what he's saying is once he gets a two-handed grip built and established, he takes away from... He switches his mind to think the support hand with the thumbs pointing forward is where he's going to push the gun to, and he's using the thumbs to lead the gun out. I think that's what he was saying.
Okay, well, is that bad to do? He's wondering?
No, I think it's good. I mean, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about this for a little while, but my initial thoughts are... I don't know. I'm confused, sort of. I don't do it that way, so I don't know how to really...
You don't conceptualize it like that. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Well, Pepperoni, what do you think? Is it okay?
I don't know. I mean, I think once you practice the draw, then a lot of that conscious thought about it goes away. So I think maybe when you actually completed the action, not while you're doing the action, but once you've actually completed the action, then maybe it pays a little bit to check, like, hey, is this grip actually, is the support hand strong enough Like, you can't think and do at the same time. It's probably easier to just do it and then take a moment
Then
afterward.
think.
Yeah, then analyze it or see if you've actually done it correctly. Um, verify, check it, whatever. But I think when you're trying to visualize it that way while trying to learn how to do the draw, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, but it makes sense to this guy, you know.
Yeah.
So,
It
so
works
he's
for him to do
saying,
it, right?
well, he's saying, is it bad? To me, I know I consciously grip really hard with my left hand, and if this guy has some sort of concept in his own brain that works for him, that produces the correct result, then fuck it. That's good for him then, right? Or no?
How would you define the correct result?
The technique that he's looking to do, sort of the conventional technique of gripping the piss out of the gun, especially with your left hand if you're right-handed.
I mean, is he verifying it by actually doing the shooting and then verifying that the groups are all right and then
I don't know.
coming back and checking it?
I
Or
didn't
is
have
he
time to
like-
ask him that.
Yeah. So
They just write in the emails and then you fire from the hip. That's pretty much the deal.
I think
So-
we can all agree that none of us have done it that way learning, right?
I definitely don't do it this way. No.
Nick?
Yeah, I no.
He still doesn't understand.
I
He doesn't know
still,
the fuck
I'm,
the guy's
not,
talking
I'm
about.
still really not sure what he's getting at there, but
I'll read the
yeah.
pertinent part.
Yeah.
Would it be wrong for your mind to think of the draw as shifting control from your strong hand to your weak hand?
And it's after you built the two-handed grip.
I fucking hope so.
He didn't actually say that.
If that works for him, I would agree with that. If it works for him, great. In fact, the way I'm personally kind of ambidextrous, so I shoot left-handed, but I actually
What do you mean?
right-handed.
Whoa! What do you mean, kind of ambidextrous?
Well, I do like different things with different hands. So like I throw a baseball.
you're left-handed.
No, so like I shoot
You're left-handed.
but
you
I
shoot left-handed.
I
You
shoot
jerk off
left-handed.
right-handed.
I right-handed. Throw a baseball right-handed.
That's not what he asked.
I wasn't really asking. I was just sort of declaring it.
Making an observation. So what we do, like, so that is part of what I guess I'm more like driving the gun a little bit with my right hand. I don't know that I consciously think about it, but since my right hand is stronger in many ways than my left, I just kind of drive the gun around with my right hand and just kind of pull the trigger with my left hand. I guess.
So you
I guess
kinda
you could
do
say
what I'm
that.
saying.
I don't
either
know
way-
that it's consciously something I'm thinking about or
Well,
really
you have
have
a
ever thought about.
concept in your brain, and that works for you.
I'm kind of thinking this out really almost for the first time. I don't consciously think about doing that. I've never done that.
I love the analytical mindset you're bringing to the table.
It could
All right.
be something that I do. It probably is actually, but I never thought about it in that exact kind of way.
But that's what I'm getting at, is that, when you're actually performing the action of going through the draw or whatnot, if you're actually stopping to think about it or whatever, I think that's a big detriment. But so you have to perform the action, then you can do something to diagnose or verify that you've done it correctly. But I think when you're in the moment of actually performing the action, I don't think that you can't like visualize it then or whatnot.
See, I can actually say that when I'm actually drawing, I'm not switching to let my support hand lead the way. I'm letting my strong hand lead the way and just gripping the shit out of the gun with the other hand. I don't actually, in my mind, switch that to the support hand is then driving out to the target. It's always in my stronger hand, my strong hand, yeah.
I got nothing. So you have a different concept than Les, right?
I don't know.
That's-
I don't think so.
So Les, what would your advice to this guy be? Would you say you're a retard, or what would you say?
No, man. I think it's perhaps overcomplicating it. But draw. Then after you've done something, then go stop the clock, whatever, and verify that you actually grip the gun the way that you want to grip the gun, the way that it's going to yield the best results. Like if you grip the gun without the draw, and then you're going to go and shoot the target, and you're getting good hits, far target, whatever, you can rattle off really quick splits or something, like that's validation that your grip is probably pretty good. So if you're going to draw to that point each time, that's what you can do to validate that you've actually drawn correctly and established the grip correctly. But I mean, I don't think that it makes sense to think through what you're going to do or visualize as you're drawing.
I find you can think about one thing. Like during your training, you could think about one thing.
Titties?
Well, if that's what you want to think about. It may not be the best for your shooting. It may be fucking awesome, but that may not be good. But you can think about one thing. What? It's okay, Les.
Yeah.
It's okay. The joke fit right in with the normal tenor on this fucked up podcast. All right, guys. Excellent shooting question.
You don't have anything for him, Ben? Like,
I mean, I think if it fucking works, then party on, dude. Like, whatever.
Results-based at this point.
That's
Yeah.
He's trying to think. It seems like he's thinking through this in a way that obviously I don't think any of us ever have.
No, like if this guy asked me this question in person, I'd look at him cross-eyed, like, what? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But then this guy, like, I think through it, and I was like, okay, like I get what you're getting at there, where you want to grip the gun really hard with your left hand. I get it. I think that's where you're headed with that. If that works for you, then that's fucking awesome, right? Of course, you can think about that one thing during training, during your doing repetitions, but during a match, of course, you would just perform action without trying to, consciously direct it around. But if this works for him, then that's fine. I observed an interesting thing the last match I shot, where this stage I was working, where that was, some would call it a DQ trap. I wouldn't necessarily, but whatever. One guy put a rock in his hand, in his strong hand, so that he would have to drop the rock and then draw the gun. Okay? And in his brain, this was discussed after the fact, but in his brain, putting the rock in his hand made him less likely to draw the gun early, because dropping the rock gave him something to do. Okay? For me, I think that that's fucking retarded. But for him, that was okay. And he shot the stage well, and it didn't seem like it slowed down his draw at all. So whatever. If that works for him, then that's fine.
I'd restart it.
You what?
I'd restart it, man.
Having a rock in his hand? It didn't say he couldn't.
Relaxed sides, facing up range.
Well,
that's a misconception. You can't just do anything that they don't cover in the rule book.
It was wrists above shoulders. His wrists were above shoulders, man. What am I supposed to say?
Right.
I can't help it. I'm very liberal when it comes to these sorts of things.
Do you do anything special before you do like a left-handed turn and draw?
I make sure I turn the fuck around before my gun comes out of the holster. That's what I try to do.
Visualize when you're going to pull the gun out of the holster during your...
Yes, I visualize it. Do I put a rock in my hand? No. If putting a rock in your hand works for you, then, have at it. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to argue with you about it. It's fine if you want to put the rock in your hand. But it seems like a similar sort of scenario, right?
Yeah.
Where a guy's doing something that's sort of weird, or he thinks about it a weird way, but for him it works, and like, oh, okay, cool, like whatever. I mean, I got more important shit to think about. With the rock in the hand?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it.
I had to think real hard about it before it made any sense to me.
Makes sense to me.
Are you going to do it?
No, I do something else that I'm not going to say because you make fun of me.
Why would I make fun of you? I've never made fun of you. Name 6 times I've made fun of you.
I can do that really easily.
Damn it. Fuck. Hater. All right, guys. Thank you so much all for joining us. It was excellent. Thought it was a fun podcast. If you want to reach Les runs the super secret practice group on Facebook. Ooh. If you want to join that, you can't. Hopkins is at hopkinsshooting.com. Yantola is on Facebook and Duty Project.
And Tinder.
And Tinder. You can find him on there too. Which way do you swipe if they want to fuck you? I don't know. I don't use it. Which way do they swipe? Is it left or right? Do they not swipe? You don't know? How do you not? Fuck you. You know. All right. If you want to send a shooting question in for the genius panel guest to answer, you can catch me at benstegger.com, or you can find Nick on Tinder and send it to him. All right? That'll work.